They say that 30 to 50% of the people on this planet don't have an inner monologue inside their head. That means that they don't have conversations with themselves and reflect on the world that they perceive. Now, when you first hear that number, it sounds unbelievable until you really think about it, and it's not really that hard to believe. Most people on this planet are followers. Most people don't have original thoughts, original ideas. Most people's thoughts come from the people around them. And that goes for everybody, obviously. We were born into a world and programmed to play the parts that we play. Be it good or bad, good and evil, those are all based on our perception of what that is. The universe cares not. But we all have a role to play on this planet, and we're born into this planet, and we take in the information in our environment, and we act out in that environment as we're programmed to do. All of us, every last one of us. Within this system, we are made to believe that we have individual thoughts, that we have independent thoughts. Those of us that have inner monologue oftentimes bounce thoughts around in our head about the future, the past, what we're trying to accomplish, the goals that we're trying to meet, programming that has been put on us either by ourselves with just by living. I want to go to school for this, or I want to do this type of work. We all learn something because we want to, and we bounce these ideas or these fears around in our head as people. Okay. And we feel like those thoughts are independent. As artists, we create art, or we create content for people to absorb and to take in. And a lot of times we feel like these are original thoughts. These are coming from us. And in reality, there is nothing new under the sun. There is no original thought. All of us, to a certain degree, are NPCs. It's just some people are a more pure form of an NPC. You can just pour thoughts into their empty brains, right? And I'm not saying their brains are empty. Some of these people are brilliant in their craft because they've taken the time to learn what they need to learn. They're visual or auditory learners. They don't sit up here and have these thoughts bouncing around in their head as voices or whatever. But for those of us that have those voices, or that voice, our voice, it is perplexing to know that there are people amongst us that navigate the world with seemingly the same ease that we do without being able to reflect on the day to day, until you start having conversations with people about deeper level things, and you understand, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have an inner monologue. A lot of people are akin to, I don't want to say animals, but like how I would think a cat or any other animal thinks. They think just about the environment around them, the present. Of course, they'll apply things that happened in the past to the present and dealing with the future, just like any other creature on this earth would. But all of the esoteric thoughts in between, what this and that is, why this works and that works, they don't go into that in their head because they just accept what is. They accept religion. They accept whatever the government says. They accept whatever their job says. They accept however society is, and they play their role until the day that they die. Very seldom do they hear that voice. And I call that voice, the Holy Spirit, or the voice of God, or whatever that we hear, because I feel that we are lucky to be able to have those esoteric thoughts within this universe about things outside of just what we see. I'm saying those of us that do have an inner monologue. But the fact that there's so many people that don't have an inner monologue, and yet the world still goes on, tells me a lot about this universe. That we do live in a machine, right? And this thing is a perception that, even though I can sit there and I can look at this machine, right? I can be like, okay, I live in this machine. I can find myself in good situations. I can find myself in shitty situations from which there seems to be no escape, right? Boxed in my life, right? Based on the choices that I made, based on the programming that I have executed in this instance. But at the end of the day, I am just playing my part, right? And I can understand that I'm just playing a part, but how can I affect the machine from within the programming? This is the programming. Everything that we experience in this reality is the programming. No different than like a video game. So take, for instance, this little character that you see sitting on the toilet. He may understand that he's just a character in a universe, right? He may want to change his circumstance. He may have the consciousness to say, okay, I'm in this simulation sitting on this toilet. How do I get out of this situation? Ask this 3D character, and I'm going to show you, right? So here he is. He's this 3D character. We just saw him, right? Sitting on the toilet, right? But me, as a fourth dimensional being, I can affect his life however the hell I want. So here he is, like, right? He can't move because we're perceiving him now. We're the fourth dimension. Look, we're the fourth dimension. We're the fourth dimension being. We're like God, right? We're going to make this bathroom disappear, right? And now he's just sitting in the toilet, on the toilet in space. Do y'all see that? Look at him. He's sitting in toilet on the toilet in space. I hope y'all can see that. Let me turn off. Let me turn this away so y'all can see it better. He's just in empty space sitting in toilet, right? There's sitting on the toilet. Okay? He is sitting in this universe understanding that he is a 3D character in this universe and he is probably being perceived by fourth dimensional beings, right? He's this three-dimensional character, right? And he understands that in order for his existence to exist, that he exists within this machine. This is the machine. My computer is the machine. You understand? We understand the machine exists, right? That's the machine. But we are just in the programming, right? We as the programmer, we as the character sitting on this toilet in this shitty situation, we can probably change our situation based on the parameters that is given to us by us, the fourth dimensional being, right? But we can never break the machine, right? We may be able to break things within the programming, within this program, but how can we affect any other program outside this programming? And there are more programs within this machine than just this program. There are all types of programs going on. I believe that that's how life works, right? And we just are playing our role. We playing our role, and we can understand. Okay, we're just playing a role in this machine, but we can't physically affect the machine. We can't physically get up off that toilet unless the fourth dimensional, unless God ordains for us to get up off that toilet. That being the fourth dimensional being that's probably perceiving us, right? Because we all know that electrons and particles only act a certain way because they're being perceived. But we're being watched by something as these individuals that exist within this instance. Even if it's just our spiritual selves perceiving us from the fourth dimension, there's something going on. And those are the type of thoughts that bounce around in the heads of people that have thoughts, which why people come to believe that the people that don't have those type of thoughts in their head are NPCs. They're just to be programmed by whatever. We're all programmed. Everything that I believe is just based on the parameters within the programming that I exist in. Outside this programming, I wouldn't this character wouldn't understand how to exist inside of Excel or Microsoft Word, because that programming doesn't have the parameters for that character to exist. He can exist as code, he can exist as lines of whatever, but then how would he be able to perceive himself as a three-dimensional being? He wouldn't. So it has to be a program that makes it so that he can be perceived, so that he can perceive himself as a three-dimensional being. That is the earth. That is this realm. That is how we are here to exist, right? That as an instance of God, right? To play whatever this cosmic game is that we're in, right? I feel that. And there are people that just are not going to have these esoteric thoughts within this programming. They are simply containers for wandering spirits, meaning the spirits that exist within this realm, the ideas that exist within this realm, take hold, grab those people by the brain, and don't let go. And those people just act out as those spirits. They act out that programming based on that spirit. Right now, for instance, this week, the rapture is happening. All these people are in this religious psychosis because they heard on TikTok that God is coming back this Tuesday. Okay. If that's the truth, great, fantastic, right? But a lot of people are not believing this because it's in their heart of hearts. A lot of this is because somebody poured this into their head, and their whole life they've been told that Jesus is coming back at some point. So they believe that in their life that he's coming back in my lifetime. They've never given it a thought outside that maybe the rapture has happened many times before. The rapture has happened many times before, and disappointed time and time again for people who have always thought that the end of the world is coming in their lifetime because they've been programmed to believe so. Just like even people like me, I can look at it like, okay, this is the end of this particular civilization. I say it all the time. I am programmed to believe that way. I am programmed to act out as I do. And it's very easy to become more nuanced in that programming when you're consuming, let's say, media on the internet. You're constantly being bombarded with the ideas that start as seeds that blossom into bigger ideas that drive you to act within this matrix. That's what happens. That's why when I'll sit there and I'll watch these videos and I'll react to these videos of these women acting like heathens or these people acting like heathens, and I get upset. Like, why are these people acting like this? Why are these people making these videos? Or this is stupid or whatever. Even if I'm being satirical, obviously I'll come at it with a somewhat irritated tone, right? But in reality, I would never surround myself with those type of people to begin with. The only way I would even understand that these people are even here having these type of ideas is because of this machine that I indulge in, the internet, or this programming that I subject myself to. Not because these are people that I would actually interact with in real life, because I never would interact with, let's say, a woman that would want to use me for whatever resources I have. Even if I had $1 million freaking dollars, I wouldn't deal with a person like that. I wouldn't deal with a woman that wouldn't want to come into my life and enrich my life, help me enrich my life so I can enrich our lives together. I wouldn't want to deal with nobody like that. I wouldn't. So, but I sit here and I react to it and I subject myself to it and feel the same emotions to it because because at some point I'm a bot myself. I am an Agent Smith myself. I am subjected to the programming that will activate me and turn me into whatever thing the machine needs me to be. I am not above it. That's where spirituality comes in, and stoicism, and not letting the spirits that float around us gather us up, rile us up, and put us into positions that we can't get ourselves out of. That's why I do feel that having an inner monologue is important for a lot of people, and I think it keeps a lot of people out of trouble. That's why I think it's the Holy Spirit. For the people that don't have that voice, these are the people that are easily led into cults like sheep. They can be led astray very easily because you're always pouring ideas into their head. They jump from this idea to this idea. They're not consistent. I used to think that it was because of a lack of integrity, a lack of spirit. It is a lack of spirit, but it's a lack of consciousness. It's a lack of foresight, not being able to see what is coming of the actions that you're taking right now, and it's a lack of reflection, not being able to see that the actions that you have done may have caused some of the things that are going on in your life at the time, even individually or worldwide. You understand? And I see that there's a lot of people living in this world that can't reflect in that way, and it is very frustrating. There's a lot of people right now, for instance, that within my community that don't understand who the real enemy is of all mankind. And it's not just based on race, but within my community, since we have been ideologically subverted, we are we are very attracted to the glitz and glamour of things that don't matter in this time. In this time, this is the time where we should be collectively, as all nations on the planet, be fighting a common enemy that worships the enemy of all man. The people that worship the great beast that rule over everything here. I can't say what I want to say, and that's why it's been very hard for me to make videos recently, because you can't speak on those who shall not be named. But as a world, as a consciousness that's seeing what's going on in the world and where the money's leading, we all need to be on the same page, and we're not, because the programming is so powerful for people to play their roles. I'm supposed to play the role of angry black man who's the victim of the system. That's the role I'm supposed to play within my community. If I don't play that role, then I am a coon. If I don't play that role, then I am an issue. You understand what I'm saying? I am anti, even though those same people will say that my people don't think as a monolith. Those who think outside that parameter are always labeled and ostracized and put on a chopping block. You understand what I'm saying? Ridicule and not looked into for what they're actually saying. For instance, Kanye. So many people in our community turned on that man without listening to what the man was actually saying, and that what the man was saying made 110% sense if you fucking did the research. All you gotta do is do the research. Look at who controls all of this shit: YouTube, TikTok, the internet in general, these banks, these companies, these schools, the government. Who controls this world? Who controls this world, this Western world? Who controls the United States? If you can just look at, it's not that hard to see who does, right? Then you can see that we all have a common situation that we need to be looking into right now. And due to the fact that those people, these are the tools of the enemy, right? That we're using right now, this internet, this communication. And I know I have to get late into this video to start talking about this. Even we have to use this in order to communicate. That is a problem, especially when you have things like Palantir that's going to be spying, when you can be persecuted for disagreeing with people that are not even of your nation, when you can be persecuted for disagreeing with governments, when you could be executed for even questioning publicly what those people's motives are with your people in this country and where your money is going. You have to be careful in this world, I'm telling you. And when you speak openly, there's always people that are going to agent Smith out on you, because like I said, that programming is so powerful for them to say, you shouldn't be talking about this. You're a coon. No, this is the enemy. This is no, it's deeper than just white supremacy. And those are just buzzwords. Those are just things. You have to look at the overall picture of what's going on and just follow the fucking money. Follow who pays the leaders. Y'all don't vote nobody in. I'm so sick of people saying, "Oh, if it was Kamala that came in, we wouldn't be experiencing." Yeah, you would. All of this is preordained. You fucking bot. We're bots. We're bots. And even being aware of this, once again, where I'm aware that I am in a shitty situation, but how can I change the machine? I can't. I can spaz out. I can flail my arms around on this fucking shit pot of a fucking throne. And what would they do? They would just simply delete me and act like I never exist and put another NPC in my fucking place. And so those of us that have these thoughts, it may be a blessing, but at the same time, it's a curse because you are vexed by these thoughts. I know I'm not the only one. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those who know. Y'all know I'm not off my rocker with what I'm saying. Y'all know that Kanye wasn't off his rocker with what he's saying because it's not that hard to do that research, especially right now. But they're about to clamp down on those of us who speak. They're about to clamp down on those of us who do come up with ideas. But at the end of the day, we are all programmed to be who we are. Me, sometimes I feel like I'm programmed to be a watcher. Sometimes I feel like I'm programmed to be a mouthpiece. On this day, I feel like I'm programmed to be a mouthpiece and speak. And I do believe that there is a God. I mean, hallelujah. There's a God, definitely a God. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. Leave a comment in the comment below. Let us know, do you have an inner monologue? Do you have deep thoughts about, the universe and living life and God and what your position is and where you're trying to go and how your day was and how you affected people and what your kids think of you and what your mama and your daddy think of you? Do you have these inner thoughts to yourself? Because I always thought up until very recently that we all did, but apparently that is not true. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a fabulous week. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, bye bye.